Looking for a different approach in dry eye? Consider MIBO, perfluoral hexaloctane ophthalmic solution for treating the signs and symptoms of dry eye disease. MIBO, unlike other prescription drops, directly targets tear evaporation. Learn more at miebodifference.com. MIBO should not be administered while wearing contact lenses. They should be removed before use and for at least 30 minutes after administration of MIBO. In clinical trials, blurred vision and conjunctival redness were reported in 1 to 3% of individuals. For full prescribing information, visit the website.
Welcome to the Four Eyes podcast. Oh, wait, let me say that again. Hold on.
Podcast.
Sorry. Podcast. Welcome to the Four Eyes podcast, brought to you by Young OD Connect. We give you a clear view into the young optometry world across Canada and the US, and we are your hosts. I'm Dr. Deepon Carr.
And I'm Dr. Amrit Bilku. And this is our 5th year round the sun, round the circle of the Four Eyes podcast, which is insane. And we wanted to have a very lighthearted, very short and quick episode because what we used to do back in the day were happy hour episodes, and we haven't done one in a really long time. And so we figured we should do another happy hour episode to celebrate the anniversary of our podcast. And I'm actually really upset that I haven't saved like raw footage from all of our episodes, because even my husband recommended earlier today, he's like, "Oh, you should just do like blooper reels."
Oh,
and I was like, "Oh, that would have been so good," because honestly, there is so much that goes on behind the scenes when we record.
Yeah.
Like right now, we actually were supposed to record 30 minutes ago, but Deepon and I were talking and venting and laughing about just our week, how it went.
Yeah. But I am excited. It is our 5-year anniversary. That is something I didn't even realize until you just told me about that. So that's so exciting. I can't believe we've been doing this for 5 years already, because when I think of when we started in
2020. Yeah.
We just graduated like 8 months prior to that. And I think when we graduated, this was not even on our radar. Like it was something we never discussed in optometry school. We never discussed social media in optometry school. Like
never.
This was never on our minds. And I think, during the pandemic, podcasts and all these different things from social media just took charge, and that's where it came from. But and we didn't think we'd be doing this for 5 years for sure.
Yeah.
I think we were like,
I mean, and surprisingly, I'm still using the same microphone from 5 years ago.
Me
You are too.
Me too.
And this just goes to show you don't always have to go super expensive for good quality to last, okay? Because these were one of the cheaper microphones.
And we're still using our old cameras from way back then.
And we used to have 2 other hosts, Dr. Rav Randhawa and Dr. Alex Kuhn. They're still here. They're still thriving. They're still practicing. We're all still good friends. But
they just have a life now.
They have a life. Honestly,
they have a life now.
They really do. And I think at some point they were like, "Okay, are we kind of done this pot? Like we have other things going on. Are we done?" And Deepon and I were like, "No, we love talking.
Yeah,
we love ranting, and we love the microphone." But yeah, I want you to give the listeners a quick message about your week, because it's actually, I mean, it's sad, but it's really interesting that like an OD is kind of going through it with like your own family member.
Oh, yes. So my dad was recently diagnosed with non-arteritic ischemic optic neuropathy in his left eye. His vision's around 20/50. He just was diagnosed with it like few days
2 days ago.
Yeah. So he saw one of my colleagues, and then he was referred to an on-call ophthalmologist right away. This condition, if you don't already know, it can happen from diabetes, high blood pressure, even low blood pressure. Yeah. My dad has very, very tiny discs. So he does have a crowded disc. It's like a 0.1 CD ratio.
Wow.
So that's a triggering factor. And he is on blood pressure medication as well. He is not on any of those other, medications that we're thinking.
Is he on Ozempic?
He
No,
is
he's not.
not. He is not. And he's not on any of those other medications that localize your blood to certain parts of the body. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So he's not on Viagra and any of that stuff, right? I know that's a awkward thing to talk about, but he's not
Yeah.
on any of that, right? So yeah, unfortunately, that happened in his left eye when he woke up suddenly with this like loss of vision, and it's just like a small part of his visual field, like
Yeah.
centrally. When he has both eyes open, he doesn't notice it at all. But we're just kind of going through all the specialist visits now to make sure we're trying to make sure it doesn't happen in his other eye.
Yeah.
But it's only
Definitely.
been a few days, right? So like what we were talking about before, we don't know if it can maybe resolve a little bit
Yeah.
on
Or
its
at least
own because there's
partially resolve, right?
yeah,
I think
because there's
there's always an opportunity.
right, because there's no treatment for this condition, and nobody really knows why this
Mm-hmm.
happens. So it's a little bit more of a complicated condition. But, my dad's still walking around like, I'm fine when both eyes are open. So it's like, but being like a family member,
Yeah.
when this happens to one of your family members, it's a very weird, like it's a flip, right? So you're
Yeah.
just kind of like, because you already know what the condition
What's
is,
gonna
what's going to
happen?
happen. And I'm already like researching frantically, finding the same answer I know I'm going to already find,
Yep.
where it's like, oh, but there's no other treatments. Like there's no, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just a weird feeling when it's
Mm-hmm.
your own close member of your family and you're just like, oh my
I
God.
know
Like,
when it's a patient in your chair, you're kind of like, go see the ophthalmologist and
mhm.
as soon as possible. But like, if you don't get today, you can go tomorrow. And then you're just like driving your dad like through traffic, like, get out of it,
Yeah.
let it
Yeah. And
go. Like
even
a
with
different feeling.
even with the on call ophthalmologist, like I don't know, expecting something different, like something
Mm,
way more detailed and thorough, but it's not. It's kind of like they just kind of do very similar, well, I guess depending on each situation, but for this
hmm
particular situation, they just did very similar tests that
And like it is what
my
it is.
yeah, optometry colleague did. They did the dilation, they did the OCT, they did the optomap, and basically was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is NAION. Like, we're
Yeah.
gonna send you to get you an MRI. You have to manage with your family doctor now. This is
And go
what it
home.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, okay. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everyone has an opinion about ophthalmology and everything, but they're
hmm
not the most friendliest, not the
Yeah.
best bedside manner, right? They're not going to
They're not
hold
trained to
your
hold your
hand.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah, which I know understand. But it just you learn through this because you're like, if you ever in your own chair, if you see patients like this, you have to remember, like if their kids are with them and if they're handling all the
Yes.
medical care of their parents, they have this worry and you kind of have to hold their hand a little bit and be like, okay, this
hmm
is what's going to happen. And if you have any questions about anything, like please don't hesitate to email me or something just to
Yeah.
kind of get them through this. Cause like, this is another rant. Like our medical system is not, obviously great as
Oh my
everyone
God, we could
knows,
talk about
right?
that all night.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I've been through this with my parents before because of other conditions they have, but like just
hmm
seeing it face to face where you're like, why
Yeah.
is no one listening or helping us? And this is not like like my colleague who saw my dad. Like my dad
hmm
loved the optometrist who saw him, but it's just everyone else after, like the
Yeah.
specialist. It was just kind of like, what just happened? Like I don't know
hmm
what was I told?
There's never
I
like
don't know what happened.
clear
There's
direction and
never
clear
clear
answers.
direction, and I can understand why a lot of with senior patients, why someone
hmm
should go with them to these appointments because
Yes.
I can't imagine any senior, no matter, even if they're in good health and know everything,
hmm
like know everything that's going on, can handle that much information coming at them. You know
Yeah,
what I
all
mean?
at
So it's
once.
just,
And
hey,
also, I
like,
I just find that I'll add a comment there. Like the senior generation right now are still that generation that believes like doctors have that authority, right? Like
mhm,
their doctors are higher above whatever the doctor says is, what goes. And
yeah,
so you don't question the doctor, you just do what you're told. And so if
exactly.
something doesn't make sense or it sounds too scary, they just hold that information and like take it home and just like let it stew within them. Like they don't want to ask
Yeah.
anything. And I see that in my parents, we hear that with grandparents and like, just
Oh,
the senior
yeah.
population.
Like
And we're
I
the
even went
total
to
opposite.
I know, like I went to the family doctor with my dad, and I had to sternly interrupt his family doctor and be
Yeah.
like, "Okay, hold on a second. Like, can
Mhm.
we just talk about the facts here for a moment?
Yeah.
And this happened, this happened, this happened. These are the results. What are we doing about that?"
Yeah.
So and my dad's very passive, so he's kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
like exactly what you said. Like he's just
Yeah.
like, "Okay, sounds good." Like,
Yeah.
so
I-
I get that part now. Like I feel like if I ever saw this kind of emergency situation in any seniors, I would probably kind of coach them a little bit more into bringing someone to the appointment, or if they have a support system like that, to kind of
Mhm.
advocate for them, because
Yeah.
I was just a little bit even though I feel like I knew this already, it's
Yeah.
just a little bit of a shock when you're there, like physically there experiencing it, and you're like,
And you want
"Oh my God."
reassurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an intense week. So I hope he'll get better.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll
yeah.
see. I'll do some follow-ups with him. We'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. Hmm.
And I got a haircut this week. So that was my
I'm gonna get a haircut on Wednesday. I'm gonna cut
yeah.
mine as short as yours.
You know what? We were supposed to do like a fun anniversary episode, fun, light, airy. I had some funny things
I
like set
know.
up. For anyone listening, I did not share any of these questions with Deepon tonight because I wanted some genuine reactions. I had a list of things just kind of set up for this episode because Deepon and I love to rant about patient experiences. And they're usually funny ones. They're usually good. We won't do anything negative today. But to celebrate 5 years of being on Four Eyes, I wanted us to go over maybe some like funny or awkward or weird patient experiences that we've ever had in the past over the last 5 years. And so
Hmm.
it's not like a never have I ever, but it's like a have you ever.
Okay.
So get ready, Deepon. We'll start with something super simple, super quick. Have you ever fallen off your stool in front of a patient?
No, that I haven't done yet. But I think it's because I have strong ankles, so I'm pretty stable. I'm pretty stable. No, dude, I'm pretty stable.
Those
Like if I
joints just they rotate.
no. And I always look before I sit down, because you know why? Because I did see one of my colleagues fall off her
Oh
stool,
God.
and
Yeah.
I had to leave the room to laugh. And this is a bad thing about me. Sorry. If anyone falls, I will
You
laugh before I
Deepon
ask if you're
Deepon
okay.
does laugh at everybody's downfall, I will say. Like even in
I can't
optometry
hold it in.
school.
It's like a instant
Yeah.
reaction, and have my hand to my mouth, and then I'm like, "Oh my God." And then I'll be like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" after. So she like literally fell off, like spinned off her stool
Oh
in front of the
no.
patient. And the
Jeez.
patient was like, "Oh my God, are you
Yeah.
okay?" And I had to leave the room to burst out laughing. And then once I got that out of my system, I came back. But it was just
Yeah.
really, she was so embarrassed
I
after.
would be too. Honestly, I've almost slipped like maybe 5 times where, yeah, the stool's behind me. So then I'm just kind of bending over, butts out, ready to touch it.
Yeah.
But then my feet or my shoes like kind of push the wheels back a little. I'm like, whoop, whoop. So
Oh yeah, so
I've
like
I've
I'll
done
like do
those,
that.
but
I like did that, but I feel like I'm pretty stable where I could catch myself before
yeah,
I
same, same. I can catch myself. Have you ever had a huge crush on a patient, or has a
Yes.
patient ever had a huge crush on you?
Yes, I've had crushes on patients, 100%.
Oh, me too.
100%.
Definitely. On
Um
patients that were way too young for me.
yes, patients that were way too young for me, but I thought they were older, but I feel like
Same.
20-year-olds look like
Same.
they're
So it counts,
35 now.
right? So it's okay, right?
Yeah. Especially I had a I had a patient, the swivel table where the slit lamp was on
Hmm.
wasn't working. So I was trying to figure it out, and he was like, "Oh, I know what to do." And he just twisted some knob, and he's like, "Yeah, see, it works
Oh,
now." And I was like, "Oh." And
oh,
he's like, "Yeah, I'm in
handyman.
Yeah, so he's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm in construction. I kind of know how things work." And I was like, "I love you now." I was like, "Oh no." And he was like
Oh.
quite a bit younger, but I was like, "Yes, I have a crush on you now."
So I got called out by one of my receptionists, actually. I had no idea that I was like showing my cards, I guess, because
Mm.
I had this, oh my gosh, he was probably like 21 or 22. And this was just last year. Okay. I was 30. So this was a big age gap, but
Yeah.
he did not look 21.
Yeah.
I had this really, really like young guy, very muscular, very fit. And we're doing his eye exam. He's got pretty eyes, whatever. But then he
Yeah.
starts talking about, oh, I'm going to apply to be a volunteer firefighter. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yes, man in uniform. But then he's like, yeah, I just want to do it as a volunteer thing because, I love wildlife. I'm always outdoors. I'm always hiking. I'm always camping. I'm like, oh, like, woo, climbing things. He's, yeah, there's so many forest fires. I just want to be able to help whenever I can. I'm like, oh my God. And so then when he checked out, I was just like, I guess giggling and like smiling a lot. And my receptionist, when he left, was like, Dr. Bilku, you are smitten over that boy. And I was like, what? What do you mean? So I've
But
had that for sure.
yeah, I've had crushes on. I think this is the other thing that's really rare in society now, just like regular kindness and just being able to
Yes.
talk normally, have a normal conversation. I feel
So
like,
anyone is attractive when they're just kind at this point.
yeah, like honestly, because it's such a rare thing sometimes.
Have you Googled your patients and have you
Yes.
found any interesting ones?
I Google the ones I have a crush on.
You
Because
Google
I'm
their
like, what do
house
they
on Google
do?
Maps and then like zoom in on
No,
the
I Google the ones I
windows.
have a crush on because then I start making this whole fantasy, but like, what do they do? Oh, blah blah blah. Oh, what are they like also married or engaged or have a girlfriend? No, I haven't ever found anything weird, I don't think, or something I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But no, I've only Googled, well, that's not true. I've Googled patients where I was like, that was a really weird interaction. What does this
Yeah.
person
So like
do?
what does
Who,
this person do? Yeah.
yeah, what does this person do?
I've
That
had
only.
like at one of my externships at ICO was in LA and it was in
Mhm.
Burbank. So
Oh,
film studios,
yeah.
so yeah, I had all the celebrities, which was really cool, come to the eye clinic that I was working at there as a student. And so we Googled everybody that walked in. There was like not a single person we didn't Google and it was like so cheesy, but like the coolest patient was like the voice of Donald Duck. No, like literally the original voice of the what I already forgot his name, but that actor or voice actor, and he came in for an eye exam once, and he shook hands with the optometrist when he said bye, and he made the like quack noise. It was just so
Oh
funny.
my
And then we had
God.
like makeup artists like who own makeup brands like Kat Von D and like stuff. So, and we had some
Oh,
movie
that's
actors.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kat
like
Von
that
D's
was
cool.
cool.
Looking for a different approach in dry eye? Consider MIBO, perfluoral hexaloctane ophthalmic solution for treating the signs and symptoms of dry eye disease. MIBO, unlike other prescription drops, directly targets tear evaporation. Learn more at miebodifference.com. MIBO should not be administered while wearing contact lenses. They should be removed before use and for at least 30 minutes after administration of MIBO. In clinical trials, blurred vision and conjunctival redness were reported in 1 to 3% of individuals. For full prescribing information, visit the website.
Oh yeah, let's
But
keep
yeah.
going. This is pretty good. Okay. Have you ever farted during an eye exam? Because I will say, for the first time ever, I did.
No,
I
Amrit.
did. I was so scared. I was like,
I
oh
know.
no. Deepon's
No.
anxiety, guys, goes through the roof though. So I
Okay.
know Deepon's heart would be pumping out of her chest if that ever happened.
I've had to, but I've held it. And I was like, as a professional
Listen,
person.
I try to hold it every single time, okay? One time I made a little movement on the stool and I just, you know what? I just didn't expect it, okay? And
So you were with a patient?
yes, but it was a very small one, okay? It was still quiet-ish. And then I had to move around the stool again on purpose to make the squeaky noise.
Okay. I know we're talking about gas
Gas,
right now, but okay,
patience
well,
fart.
I had a patient pass gas
Yeah.
during the exam and he apologized. And that was probably one of the most like I had to leave the room for a
To
minute
laugh.
because not to laugh, the
Oh my God.
smell. The smell.
No.
It was during my veteran affairs rotation. So it was like this 80-year-old
Oh.
man and he was trying to move from his wheelchair to the chair
Oh.
and then he just let it rip and he's like, I'm sorry, I can't control it. And I was like,
Oh, I
and
wouldn't
we
feel
weren't wearing
bad.
masks at that time. So I was like, I'm so sorry. I just really need to leave the room for a moment and he's like, no, I understand. And I was just
Oh,
that all of those molecules straight went up into my nostrils. I had my mouth closed. I made sure my
see,
mouth
okay, you know what? I
closed.
feel very, very fortunate that the one accident was non-smelly. It was very short. It was very quick. And then I covered it up with a lot of other movements. And
But
my patient did not move, did not like say anything, did not move their eyes. From what I know, the patient had no idea. And I was literally sweating in that room, like, oh my God, I
well,
cannot believe that happened to me. I'm going to say a lot of optometrists listening right now or students are lying if they've never let out a little one unexpectedly and accidentally during an exam or during a lab practical, okay? Everyone's lying. I'm the only honest person here. That's all I'm going to say. Here's another fun one that happened to me a few months ago. Well, I guess you could say it in a negative or positive way. Have you had a patient comment on the way you look?
I haven't had any negative comments before, but
Oh,
also my face is half of it's covered with a
oh, because
mask.
you're still masking up all
Oh,
the
I
time.
still mask, man.
Got it.
So they can only see
Oh, so they
my
can't see your
eyes and my
actual
eyebrows.
RBF.
They can, no, they so okay, so this is I'm really being honest about this. I wear a mask because my face is really animated. So when I
Yes.
get very frustrated with a patient, the clinic, or I just
Yeah.
feel really overwhelmed, you can read it like a book on my
Yeah.
face. So
You and I are very similar in that.
I wear a mask just so they can see my dead eyes and they could just be like, "Oh, I can't tell if she's
Oh
like."
gosh.
But I did one time pull down my mask and this lady was like, "Oh, you look so different without your mask." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh my
okay,
God, I
well,
love
see you
it.
next time."
I had this auntie, like this maybe in her mid 50s, and she's one of those ladies that like tries to stay very dressed up, very loud with the brands that she's trying to wear, trying to make a
Mhm.
statement that she's still young and like she's hip with all the brands and everything out there. So she has her lipstick on, she's got the
Oh,
mascara
yes.
rubbed all over her eyes. And I always have my hair up in a ponytail because, I'm very sensitive with like hair around my neck and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I do the whole eye exam. She loves me. She's like, "Oh my God, you're the best doctor. You're so nice, blah, blah, blah." Everything's great. I'm saying goodbye to her, and she's coming out of the exam room. And then she starts whispering to me, and she's like, "Dr. Bilku, can I just tell you something?" "Yeah, sure." "Yeah, you know what? Stop. Don't put your hair like that in a ponytail. Look, you're pulling all your hair. You're going bald from the top." You could see the smile from my face just tight. But I was like, okay, I'll see you in 2 years. Have a nice day.
So you know what? Now that we were talking about this, I had a colleague tell me, another optometrist colleague tell me she had a patient ask her, why are you why are you putting black eyeshadow underneath the eye? And she was, I'm not. Those are just my eyes.
My
And she was,
dark circles.
I
My
know. And
gosh.
when she told me this, I was like, what? She's like, yeah, dude, like you don't understand. People, exactly. People have no filter. Okay.
Let's do one more of this. Have you ever like fully explained test results to the wrong patient?
Not fully explained, but kind of halfway through. Yes, because there was a
Me too.
huge, huge communication barrier, or
Okay.
language barrier, which led to a huge communication barrier. None of the patients really knew English. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure who was like if I thought the person who sat in the chair was this
Yeah.
patient. And anyways, yeah, so it has happened to me, but then it was like quickly fixed and I was very very embarrassed because I
Oh,
was just like, "Oh
me
my
too.
god,
It's
this
it's
person
happened to
probably
me.
has probably thinks I have no idea what the hell's going on."
Yeah.
Only and the reason why I felt really embarrassed is because I had another patient, kind of, and I mean he was right. He kind of got angry that I didn't know some of his past reports, like the results from
Mm.
his previous reports, and he was just like, "How do you not know this? Like it's all in my file. Shouldn't you be checking that before?" And then I was just like, Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me just go over this really quickly. So
Hmm.
now if there's like any confusion with reports, I get really like triggered and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like I'm just like, no. And I just see that guy in my face going
Yeah.
like, did you not check this before? And I'm
Yeah.
just like, no.
Sometimes with the Optos camera, I that happens to me because sometimes the Optos account kind of logs out automatically and
Oh,
then you have to
mhm.
refresh and log back in. So sometimes when I've logged back in, I like pull up their photos and before dilating them, I'll still show them the photos to be like, "Oh, you know what? So far, this is what everything looks like. So far, everything looks good. We're going to dilate you now, get a little extra view in there, blah blah blah." Kind of to prep them. And so then if I see something, this has happened to me maybe twice before. I'll see like a little bit of diabetic ret, or I'll see a chirpy or something in there. And I'm like, oh, and then you have this in the left eye. And then, we got to check for this and we got to do this. Maybe the diabetes is, a little out of control. And then they're like, I don't have diabetes. And then I'm looking at them like, what do you mean you don't have diabetes? You're
Yeah.
bleeding back there. And then they'll be like, no, I'm not diabetic. I just had my blood work. And then I'll look at the name and I'll look at the chart and I'll be like, I'm so sorry. Hold on. This is somebody else's phone. Let me just, and then I pull up theirs and I'm like, oh, you look beautiful. Everything's healthy.
Our Optos doesn't do that. Like it won't log us out. So once I'm on the
Yeah, mine
photo,
will do that.
it's on there, but I've never mixed up photos because I'll double check the name usually. But
Yeah.
I have had like on the chart, they were diabetic like 10 years ago, but then they fixed the issue and they're not diabetic anymore. And
Yeah.
then I'll still ask like, "Oh, you're diabetic." And they're like, "No,
No.
like I told you this last year as well. Like I'm not diabetic. Like are you not writing this in the chart?" And I'm like, "Oh, yes, yes, we are." And it's just
No, yes, yes, we are. We know everything. We know everything. I was just saying that for fun.
But honestly, after seeing my dad's family doctor and the amount of times we had to repeat everything to him, I feel a little bit better
You
because
are,
I'm
yeah,
just like,
you are
I'm
not a
not
terrible
this
doctor.
terrible at least.
Honestly,
Like what's
I
going
I
on?
think I can confidently say there are worse doctors out there than every single one of us
Yes,
optometrists out there. Like
sure.
honestly, optometrists in general are overall such caring,
Yeah,
kind, patient doctors.
that's
No
true.
matter what practice mode we're in, no matter what school you graduated from, no matter if it's Canada or the US, I think in general we are trained and we are just people with that personality that
Hmm.
cares a lot about our patients and will put in that extra step. So anytime there's a negative experience and a patient says something negative about us or we didn't do something right, I honestly I feel terrible, but I don't feel that terrible because
Yeah,
there are doctors out there doing way worse or and not doing anything
yeah,
that they should be doing. So,
yeah.
no, I wouldn't feel bad if I were you.
No,
That was good. I feel like I want to wrap up this anniversary episode with one last final question because I have a really funny experience to share, but I want to know if you have one. What's the craziest patient you've ever had? What's the craziest thing your patient has ever done that you'll never forget in your chair?
like just crazy personality or like crazy
Yeah.
case or like, I mean, I had this one lady. She is a therapist. She just crazy. Like she's like I don't even know how to explain it. Like she would come in
Therapist is a crazy
and
one.
yeah, like she'd come in. She had this really, really thick accent too.
Mm.
So, she would come in, like come in through the door and she'd be like, "Hello, everyone." But you know what I mean? Like she'd be like, "Hello to you. Hello to you. Where's my optometrist? Where's my optometrist?" And then I would be with another patient and I'd come out and I'd be like, "Oh, hello, hello." And I'd be trying to check out this patient
Yeah.
before I got to her. It would just be like this crazy, crazy thing. And she's a chatter, obviously. So she'd be
Yeah.
really chatty, tell me the craziest stories about her partner and everything. And I don't know, like she just had a very crazy personality
Yeah.
and you just had to
Very
brace
out there.
yourself every time she came in,
Yeah.
because it wasn't just us that knew, but everyone in the clinic would be
In the
like,
office
"Who is
new.
this lady that just walked in?" Like, I think even other patients would remember her.
That's the worst. That is when it's such an awkward situation when one of those like really out there patients come in the office and you have patients looking at you like, oh my God, you're going to have to deal with that person. And then you look at them like, yeah, not ready for my day. It's so awkward when other patients are in the office and then they feel uncomfortable because now they're like, who is this person? And like,
and is this person now going to talk to me? Because she talked to everyone in the office. She'd be
yeah.
like, how are you? When's your appointment? Which doctor are you seeing? Like, it's just like one of those. And that's why I would try to get her in as soon as I could. So she didn't make.
So she wouldn't disrupt the other patients.
Yeah. And then, you know, it's just a lot of energy for those kind of people.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's try to keep this to a minimum, even though we would allot a certain amount of time for her. Like she was flagged in our system.
Oh yeah. You need to flag these types of patients. Like
Yeah.
even for just your staff to know, like book them, you know, towards the end of the day so that they don't push back your morning or book them in for an hour, book them, whatever. You need to flag them so that you can plan your day accordingly for that person to come in.
And she was healthy, right? So there was no particular reason she had to stay at our clinic for 45 minutes or whatever.
I am going to tell you my patient's encounter that I had last month. And that is so funny because this patient was perfectly healthy too. It was like, why are you here for an hour and a half talking and talking? Like you don't need to be here for this long. I had this patient come in for a routine eye exam, did his eye exam, you know, didn't chat with him too much because I mean, that waiting room told me enough.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not going to make small talk with this guy. I'm just going to get in, get out. Completely healthy. This guy is in his 60s, no cataracts yet. Like honestly, nothing. 20/20 vision, doesn't even wear glasses, hardly wear. He's got like a +1, you know, 25 readers and he's 20/20 vision. Blood vessels in the retina, oh, they look so clean. They look better than mine. And so then I'm summarizing everything for him. I'm like, you know what, sir, everything looks great. You know, you're due to come back in a year or two. And then he kind of like grabs my arm because he's just like, you know why? You know why I'm so healthy? And he's like showing me his veins on his arms. And he's like, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. It's like, I drink Coca-Cola every day for the last like 50 years. The Coca-Cola cleans out the veins. Yep. Wow. I got to get me some Coca-Cola right now. And you know what? I'm going to say, because I'm all into like holistic wellness, I don't judge what a lot of people do. Okay. I really don't. When people talk about breathing exercises and eye muscle yoga, you know what? I'm like, I do not judge you for that. Amen. Do whatever you need to do to stay healthy. That guy's blood vessels look cleaner than mine. And I came home that day and told my husband, you know what? Maybe we should get some Coca-Cola.
Maybe he's doing Coke Zero though.
See?
Coke Zero.
It has to be Coke Zero. It has to be Coke Zero. That's my favorite. But
are you sure you didn't switch this Optomap with someone else?
No, I did not. I definitely did not.
I guess like you're just kind of like you just hear everything at this point.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, all right, whatever, on to the next one.
Yeah, that was a really good have you ever, you know, anniversary series. I like that because it's funny just going through those 5 years of how differently like we are now as practitioners. And I feel like the crazy patient encounters are never going to end. And honestly, I'm looking forward to a lot more of them in the future.
Yeah, there's going to be crazier ones. Someone will be hanging from your ceiling and be like, ready, Dr. Bilku?
Like hanging from the lights.
Like,
I can't wait for that. And I can't wait for more Four Eyes episodes. So yeah, we really want to thank all the listeners for sticking it out with us and supporting the podcast and letting it get to where it is today. And we do want to give a very, very special shout out to Young OD Connect for believing in the podcast and supporting the podcast and sponsoring it so that we could reach a lot of other new grads and OD students across North America who are going through the struggles and just want to listen to an informative but chill, relaxed podcast series with two hosts who do not take themselves too seriously. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to Four Eyes, the podcast series brought to you by Young OD Connect. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram or YouTube at Four Eyes Optom for more content, and we'll see you next time.